Because of a recent private project, I found myself looking into different game engines, and thanks to our obviously non-spying overlord Google...
Are you connected to the CIA?
I've got to admit, I'm not sure.
I'm getting news about game engines, Unreal in particular. Looking at some of the news headlines I've gotten over the past year, some sound all too familiar, almost giving me movie trope Vietnam War flashbacks. Major development studios are switching to Unreal 5. We have seen this before, and it's worrisome. Game developers consolidating to a handful of engines, with one of them dominating, cannot be good. Especially if it's Unreal 5, because everyone and their dog have been telling me for a year that Unreal is destroying games. I mean, seriously, there are a lot of videos with those kind of titles, and they do have a point. But instead of jumping onto the sometimes deserved Unreal Engine hate train and pick apart instances of games stuttering, let us have a look at why developers are choosing Unreal Engine 5 in particular. Because they're choosing it for a reason. They're not purposefully making games bad. So let's have a look. And maybe we come out of this with a better understanding of why Unreal Engine is good, bad, or what is actually leading to games being bad nowadays. Because honestly, after looking into this more, I came out with a better opinion of Unreal than I had before. Even though I'm still not a big fan of Epic. God damn it, I want Unreal Tournament back! So, why did I set out with a slightly negative opinion of Unreal? And why did I have these flashbacks, and the need to grab a cold beer and say, "Sit down with me, boy, and listen to the stories about the time when the Unreal Engine 3 ruled the land"? Well, that's a very dramatic and exaggerated way of putting it, but that's how it felt to me as a teenager back then. Maybe it is selection bias of the games I used to play, but it felt like every second or third game was created with Unreal Engine 3. You can spot Unreal Engine-powered games quite easily with a little bit of training. One of the ways to spot it is to look at metallic objects. They had this kind of glow, the Unreal Engine shine or Unreal funk. And you still see it nowadays. Objects that are not supposed to look like polished metal or shiny plastic. Back 4 Blood had a lot of these examples. Looking back, was Unreal 3 a bad engine? No, not at all. The engine was and still is damn powerful, and has some really good games developed with it, like the Batman Arkham series, Mass Effect, Gears of War, the whole Tripwire stuff, and so on. But the overabundance of Unreal Engine games resulted in a lot of games looking very samey, even if they were supposed to be in totally different universes. The games just looked alike. So, Unreal Engine games are prone to look similar. That's an issue. But before we examine that further, let us have a look at why people are using Unreal. There are some good reasons for it. To gain a better understanding of the professional side, we chatted with Val from Mountaintop Entertainment and Alex from World of LevelDesign. First of all, making your own engine is really hard work. Especially for smaller studios, using a ready-made engine such as Unreal can be the only option. The factors are time, money, and manpower. It is not uncommon for completely separate teams to be set up to deal with the development and support of the engine, in addition to the team developing the actual game. The engine has to support various console generations, countless PC hardware combinations, and also smartphones nowadays, depending on your needs. Various new and old standards such as DirectX and Vulkan have to be considered. It needs to run on various operating systems, Windows, Linux, iOS, and so on. And that is just the tip of the iceberg, and it goes much deeper. If you don't have the time, the money, or simply the personnel, the only option is to use a freely available engine, and the Unreal Engine is simply a good choice. Both Val and Alex told us the Unreal Engine is a great tool for beginners, simply because it's free and there are so many tutorials, instructions, and resources for it out there, making it a very popular tool. Even Hollywood film productions use Unreal Engine to create environments.
But by using Unreal Engine, tech borrowed from the video game field, that problem is solved. Artists can create a photorealistic 3D background that moves strictly with the camera's field of view, known as the frustum.
The engine has many pre-built tools. has a high level of compatibility with other software used in the industry, such as Maya, Blender, and Houdini. Modding implementation shouldn't be a big problem thanks to the tools provided, and Epic even gives you access to the source code. It's just an incredibly powerful piece of software that was created by incredibly capable and intelligent people. And here we arrive at the first junction point where the good reasons to use Unreal intersect with the negative sides. We asked Val the following: what is your point of view about big developers like CD Projekt, Eidos Montreal, and others switching from their in-house engines to Unreal 5? I think the mass switch to Unreal Engine and ditching in-house bespoke engines and tech is about talent. There are huge pools of engineers, artists, and designers that all know Unreal Engine 4 and 5 to some degree, and onboarding those new members is a lot cheaper in the long run than hiring talent and needing to onboard them for months in a new pipeline/new tech. For instance, when joining Mountaintop, I was able to onboard into MT's fork of UE within weeks rather than months. Alex from World of LevelDesign shared a very similar sentiment. Switching to UE provides flexibility. You can more easily onboard developers. But if I was to be a bit cynical, it also makes firings a lot less painful, as you didn't have to train the personnel first. Less money sunk into the training would have been lost. But hey, that's not an issue with the engine itself, so what's the actual problem? Thank you, dear fictional questionnaire. One issue we came across from the developer's point of view is bloat. Unreal Engine 5, the current version of Unreal, can do a hell of a lot. Really, a lot, from simple 2D platformers to 3D VR games. But that also means that the engine is more prone to errors because no matter how good the developers are, there is a lot that can cause issues. As Val put it, I honestly think UE's biggest strength and its biggest weakness are the same: the tooling. They try to cover every possible aspect of creation in nearly every creative industry, which leads to tools that are half-baked, poorly documented, and inconsistent. But a good chunk of the time, nearly every problem you'd want to solve from a tooling standpoint has been started to some degree and is a great jumping-off point to extend these tools. And you can, unlike closed engines like Unity. But I'd also say a big weakness of UE versus licensing something like id-Tech, Source, or Crytek is you need to reinvent a lot of the core systems. Core UI, input, and so on. It's a lot to make before making the game. Alex added the following: constant updates make it hard to keep up with what's being included and what's being removed. Many features that are added are forgotten about or never mentioned or returned to be improved. Another thing UE is notorious for is its poor performance. Sure, it can look damn beautiful and display great things, but that comes at a cost. Alex from World of LevelDesign mentioned to us that it is often difficult to properly optimize your levels. As he put it, you get carried away. It is the flip side of the positive aspect of the extremely high-end tech for geometry, landscapes, materials, and lighting. Do you remember Can It Run Crysis? Nowadays the question is, can it run Unreal 5? While I love S.t.a.l.k.e.r 2, it can be horribly unoptimized and just run like crap, especially in the release version. And that's something that is caused by many of the features that make Unreal 5 look so stunning. They can make it incredibly resource demanding. The Lumen technology, while impressive, proves to be a performance killer even on higher-end systems. Unreal 5 can run smoothly even on low-end systems, but not if you want the jaw-dropping visuals. If a game is built on the Source engine, you can just tell that it is Source, unless you hide it very well, like Apex Legends. So the previously mentioned issue of the Unreal Funk still remains to some extent. As Alex from World of LevelDesign put it, everyone seems to be using it. You have to be one of the best to stand out from the rest. Things look the same and you can tell it is Unreal. Unless you can make it fit your art style and aesthetics, which comes down to being an artist and knowing the engine. It's just up to the game studios to implement their own style to make it not look like Unreal, but that's where good artists and programmers come in and those who know how to get the engines to execute their vision. So, with a little know-how and above all a good art director, games can look drastically different despite having the same engine. But that isn't really a fault of the Unreal Engine per se, more an issue with so many people using Unreal instead of proprietary engines that look different from the get-go. Something that we learned from talking to people who use Unreal on a day-to-day basis is that many of the problems attributed to the engine come down to the people using it. Unreal can do basically everything you want. Given time and resources, it can look stunning and be optimized at the same time. It often comes down to a time constraint, and a time constraint is a money constraint. It is a similar issue to why many special effects in newer Marvel movies just look bad. Because studios are pushing the artists with crazy deadlines, and similar things are happening in gaming. And you can add in your head a whole diatribe on the societal issue and economic issue that is fostering an environment where this is happening. Another issue that has been roaming around in the back of our minds is a potential slowdown of innovation. When developing a feature, you can run into a brick wall. Imagine you're trying to implement a feature the engine just simply can't do well, or at all. For example, when Fez was being developed, no engine could rotate a 2D world, which is why the developer built their own engine. Nowadays, that would not be necessary. You could implement that into Unreal, for example. Developers oftentimes do not need to invent their own engines anymore. This consolidation, this dependence on one big open engine, I see their point for using it. It just scratches me the wrong way how the art of the in-house engine is lost. The uniqueness of the craft is in danger, so to speak. And then in the end, there's Tencent. For those of you who don't know, it is a Chinese company that is directly subordinate to the government of China, and it owns 40% of Epic Games, and therefore holds a lot of sway. So far, there has been no direct influence taken on independent license holders of the Unreal Engine. Nonetheless, this de facto government control is worrisome, but it is a point a bit removed from the rest of the issues raised in this video, as it is not directly impacting players and developers, I guess except from the occasional censorship of words like Tibet or Tiananmen Square. We wanted to mention it. It is a topic that should be looked at separately. If you want, we'd be happy to do that. Tell us in the comments. I want to thank Val and Alex for their time. Thanks to them, my view of the Unreal Engine has changed quite a lot, and the script almost got scrapped. The first draft of the script felt like gamer rage. Everything is Unreal nowadays, and Unreal games are stuttering crap. While there is some truth to that, you rarely look onto the other side and ask, why are they using this engine if it is stuttering crap? And then you talk to developers and you see how it usually isn't the game engine's fault, and also not the fault of the developers themselves. It's the people behind them. It opens up a new perspective. Yet, deep down, I still worry for the future of gaming. It's not that I fear that great games won't be released. They are. But still, innovation could slow down if everyone relies on one company for their game engine. I've met some great devs over the years. They are freaking smart and creative people. If it was just up to them, all of our games would be amazing. But they're not the ones making the decisions. They are the ones being pushed and hurried. Minimum investment, but max profits. And then there's Tencent, and I just hope I'm too paranoid. And at this point, I would like to invite you to the comment section for a nice and civil discussion. We usually read every comment, so don't hesitate to share your opinions, but keep it civil, alright? And at this point, a big thank you to our supporters on Patreon, who got to see this video well before anyone else. Sometimes people ask when the video is being released, why is there a comment that is like 2 weeks old? That's because they're a Patreon supporter. They got to see this video way ahead. So, see you guys next time. Until then, have a nice day, and as always, goodbye and guten Tag. Looking at a list of bitch